Hello, my name is Alex Stroh, and I'm a fifth year senior in the VCT program. And this will be my final client presentation on the freelance cake business, aptly named Rhonda's Cakes and More. So, to kind of introduce my client as well as my project, I wanted to start it off kind of giving her background. So, her name is Rhonda Bingaman. She is located in Bellefontaine, Ohio. It's a really small town over kind of near Mad River Mountain, and she's a freelance baker who serves that Bellefontaine community. She's been doing this for upwards of over 25 years, and while she makes these amazing cakes that you would normally think of, she also tends to kind of aim towards making cakes that are very specially requested, things she's never done before. She's really into kind of tackling these new projects that a lot of other bakers wouldn't do because it's not, to make a pun, cookie cutter. And so she does all kinds of things from those cakes, but also cookies and cupcakes. And they're all incredibly tasty and wonderful and very well done. And that's why I kind of chose her, is because I believe in her business. I think she's an incredible person, and I wanted to help her with her visual communication problem. That visual communication problem basically consisted of her business not having really any branding, and what it was, when it came to branding, was that it was not consistent at all across her platform. For the most part, she doesn't host her website. She just only really uses her Facebook page as her main way to contact others, as her main way for potential customers to contact her. That's where a lot of her discussions take place on pricing. That's where people see her previous cakes. It's also working as her portfolio. And so it was one of those things that was the main thing that needed to be tackled with the rebranding, because that's where her customers are spending most of their time, is on that page. Her products, so mostly her cake boxes. Those cake boxes also help carry cookies and cupcakes and more, but those boxes have no branding, or had no branding. And so one of the things I wanted to do was find something that could help give her a unique feel, so when that person takes that cake to their event, and people are always asking, oh, who made this delicious and amazing cake, the branding on the box itself would show them. I also wanted to take photographs of her products. She is pretty old fashioned when it comes to technology, and so she had a camera that was double digit years old probably, and so a lot of her photos were very small in file size. They were also very lacking in quality, and so I wanted to attack this with a photo shoot in her house, of the product she wanted, and then apply that logo to keep that consistent branding. And then I wanted to create smaller print materials for things like her quote unquote menu. It's also known as her price sheet. I wanted to find things to make the cohesion in her branding. So some of my goals with this project were to provide those materials that help solve the visual communication issues, obviously, but I also wanted to make sure I contained and maintained a positive relationship with my client. She's a really awesome person. She's also my girlfriend's mom, so I wouldn't want to step on any toes there. So that kind of gave me an extra, not obstacle, but another chance to kind of talk to her and learn more about all of that. And so I also wanted to help her business. This is one of those things where I'm creating something for her business, and so I want to make sure it's helping it increase the value of her awesome cakes. And so I wanted to create those designs also that helped Rhonda feel confident in her ability to display them within the community. And then overall, also, I wanted to step outside my comfort zone with the designs and the things that I chose to do. And so, as you can see, this has definitely got a lot of like pinks and what are also known. I mean, I guess you can define them as more less masculine colors and things like that, and more frilly esque designs. I don't know how you would want to word that, but stepping into a zone like this to design stuff for like a cake business is a lot different than what I've done in the past with more masculine, I guess, designs. And so when it came to coming up with these solutions, I started with her overall logo. This was the biggest piece in the whole charade and the whole process of this project. So a lot of the times, her logo basically consisted only of her name of her business written on top of a cake, and it was usually in a font, as you can see in this one, that's not as professional. And then also, it's you can't even read some of it because it's conflicting colors or very similar colors, and there's no way for people to really kind of see it stand out from the cake. And while the cake was amazing and it looks amazing, that logo is just kind of slapped on there. And so I wanted to create a logo that that Rhonda would be proud of to put on all of her photos that she uses kind of for a portfolio on her Facebook. And so this kind of went on by me coming up with concepts and refining them. I tested out a couple and they just kind of got shot down immediately. And that was where I got a chance to converse with my client and learn more about what she was looking for from the project, and like we learned together also what colors would work for her business, what would depict what, and where we could create something that wouldn't define her company as only one facet, one kind of design. And so from those not failures but redesigns and completely starting over, we got to come up with a really awesome logo that you can see there. And create this awesome thing. We refined it a couple times. We changed the cake on there. It used to be a cupcake, and we switched it to a tiered cake. We also added some more script font versus a blocky font, obviously going with that more loosely handled but fancy kind of lettering versus I had very masculine defined letters. And then I got a chance to not only create this logo but essentially use it as the backbone for this project that ended up being applied to just about everything else in some form or fashion. So from there, we did the Facebook redesign, and so we replaced her Facebook logo, her Facebook profile picture, with that logo. And what we did is we can set it to any background color we want, but the way this logo is circular fits perfectly in the profile photos section. And then we created a header photo for her page, and the way this is designed is to meet those constraints of Facebook. So if someone's viewing it more on mobile or they're viewing it on the website, they're still going to get the same experience. Nothing's going to get cut off like you see in that current photo. The entire top of the cake is cut off and the bottom, and you can barely see her logo on web and not even on mobile. And so putting that in there really helps create that first step of cohesive branding when someone lands on her page where most of her business is conducted. And so basically this can started with finishing that logo and finding those brand standards from Facebook, and then designing that header, defining it and redefining it and refining it a couple times just to make sure everything was looking good, and then we added it to the page. From there, we updated her price sheet. It hadn't been updated since something like January of 2017, and so we got a chance to add more defined, like we actually needed to add her name to it so people will know that it's for her business because this is part of her Facebook page as well. So we added those needed updates, and then we added the logo to the header. And this way, whenever she adds stuff, it won't kind of do that thing in Microsoft Word where all the text gets jumbled around in some form of text wrap. It actually lets it to almost become a template for her, because as she continues to add more consistence in products but also change up things here and there, add more kind of fillings or specialties, the branding will stay consistent. It won't get lost. It won't be put in the middle of the page by stuff like that. So this was a small step but a needed step. And from there, we made official business cards. She had an old one that she had actually printed and made herself with some clip art, and it was black and white because that was the cheapest way to print it. And so what we did is we found a way to kind of keep that same feel but incorporate the new logo and design style. And so that's what we did in this one. We applied the logo, we made sure all of our info was still correct, and then we tried to make people use that Facebook page as her website a lot more. And so we turned the business card into almost what looks like a Facebook search bar, so people understand, hey, go try to find her on Facebook. That's where you're going to be the best chance to contact her. And so we applied the logo to it, and we refined that a couple times, but I think it turned out really well. From there, we created stickers with the logo. We decided on a 3x3 sticker, 3" by 3". And so what we did is I had to create a file in InDesign and basically convert all of the colors from RGB. For the most part, they were safe, but there was a little bit of percentage change here and there, converting it to CMYK for printing. I resized things to make sure stuff like the hyphens were still visible, etc. And then we ended up choosing kind of our style of sticker that would fit price range, as well as for the future what she could order on her own, and then we printed them. And what these will do is they'll go on top of the cake boxes, and that way when she's handing these products off to customers, they will get consistent branding. They will be able to do her advertising for her as these cakes are going out to businesses or families and more. And then kind of more finally, I did some kind of commercial photography. And so, like I said before, the photography, the quality was a little bit low on the camera, and so what I got to do is step in there with my SLR camera and take more professional photos. And so that process kind of started with setting a date where she would be actually making products that day, where they would be extremely fresh and ready for photographing. And so setting that date was the biggest thing, and then choosing what products she might make as auxiliary photos, because what she was making might not be enough to kind of give her a good sense of everything I could do for her. And so from there, I went and shot the photos at her house where she conducts her business. We had to make a kind of makeshift studio out of some cardboard trifolds and some black sheets, but we made it happen, and make sure we got the lighting with 1,000 different lamps and different lights. But I think we made it happen really well, and it was kind of one of those things where I learned that not everything's going to be in a professional setting, so you might have to get very creative. And so I got to meet with my client afterwards and refine what photos we liked. I edited the blemishes we might see, because obviously baking's not always super commercial. You have to make things look a little bit better. And so then I went and applied all of the logos in Photoshop on top of the editing, got approval from my client, and we ended up with a really good amount of different photos of her products that really showcase how good they are. My overall results were super successful. In my opinion, I got to create a more cohesive branding scheme. I also got to help her create more brand recognition within her community, and then I also helped create a client who was proud and more confident within her own business. So some of the lessons I learned, severe time management skills. So I had to learn very quickly that things that I think would take a certain amount of time are definitely going to take longer no matter what. And even if there was something I thought was easy, to that next time I would add a little bit of extra time onto it, even though I knew I could finish it in 5 minutes, just because those things that kind of you don't expect will happen no matter what. And then I was kind of afraid of having to redesign everything a bunch of times, and so I kind of played it safe at the beginning with my designs. I stuck with what I knew, and that ended up being worse for my client than kind of stepping outside of my comfort zone. And so stepping out of my comfort zone really helped me kind of actually create something that worked for both of us. And so I learned new things. And so I said a lesson I learned was don't let the redesigns scare you from trying something new. And so also communication was incredibly important. Obviously, there was a lot of moving parts. Obviously, trying to figure out when to go shoot photos, when certain cakes would be there, as well as organization of my day and my files. And so as well as seeing a day in her life helped me find out more what my client needs than a meeting of her telling me what she might needs. So these were all the things I learned, and I hope you liked my presentation.